In Galatians chapter 4, Paul discusses the two covenants using Abraham's wife and concubine as allegories of the two covenants. But the primary topic is not the covenants, but Abraham's two sons, Ishmael and Isaac. Hagar represents the old covenant and law of God, corresponding to present Jerusalem, while Sarah represents the new covenant promise of God, corresponding to Jerusalem above. Paul states that the son of the slave, or Hagar, was born according to the flesh, but the son of the free woman, or Sarah, was born through promise. Now, here's the important thing to take from all of this. But just as at that time, he who was born according to the flesh persecuted him who was born according to the Spirit, so also it is now. Friend, what Paul said then is still true today. Those born according to the flesh persecute those born according to the Spirit. So we read the following. And the dragon stood before the woman who was ready to give birth, to devour her child as soon as it was born. When we continue through the rest of chapter 12, we see that the dragon who stood ready to devour her child continues to persecute the woman after she gives birth, spewing water out of his mouth like a flood, that he might cause her to be carried away by it. This is not a flood of water, but an overwhelming deluge of deception. We then see that the dragon makes war with the rest of her offspring, who keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. Doesn't the word offspring refer to what Paul called children of promise? Might the apostles of Christ, who also suffered persecution, be this offspring? Now, with this in mind, let me say this. The strongest opposition to God's people is not so much others, but rather the pride of the traditional mindsets that were established long ago and remain up to this present hour, just like it was with the religious leaders in Jesus' day. The Lord himself said that many would come in his name and deceive many. The power of deception began rising long ago and has only increased since that time. The natural carnal man is no different today than he was 2,000 years ago. We must keep in mind that we place the chapters and verses in the Bible, so the context of one chapter may very well lead into the next. Such is the case with the dragon. Immediately following the last verse of chapter 12, we find the following. And the dragon stood on the sand of the seashore. Then I saw a beast coming up out of the sea, having 10 horns and 7 heads, and on his horns were 10 diadems, and on his heads were blasphemous names. Note that John saw the dragon standing on the sand of the seashore, watching the rise of a beast out of the sea. In the very next verse we're told, and the dragon gave him, that is, the beast, his power and his throne and great authority. Regarding the phrase sand of the sea, we find the following. Isaiah also cries out concerning Israel. Though the number of the children of Israel be as the sand of the sea, the remnant will be saved. For he will finish the work and cut it short in righteousness, because the Lord will make a short work upon the earth. What did the prophet cry out regarding Israel? Though the number of the children of Israel be as the sand of the sea, the remnant will be saved. Friend, the dragon is standing on the sand of the sea, and Paul is specific. The sand of the sea points to the children of Israel. Now, let's bring this to the following. Now, when the 1,000 years have expired, Satan will be released from his prison and will go out to deceive the nations which are in the 4 corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, whose number is as the sand of the sea. Here we are a third time with the phrase sand of the sea. Only this time it refers to the nations which are in the 4 corners of the earth, Gog and Magog. Now here's a very interesting thing to consider. Strong states that Gog is of Hebrew origin, referring to the name of an Israelite. Magog is also of Hebrew origin, whose root means a son of Japheth. Who is Japheth? Noah's third son. What did God tell Abram? I will make your descendants as the dust of the earth, and again look toward heaven and count the stars if you're able to number them. So shall your descendants be. What did God tell Jacob, who became Israel? I will make your descendants as the sand of the sea, which cannot be numbered for multitude. Cannot be numbered? Yes, which brings us to the following. After these things I looked, and behold, a great multitude which no one could number, of all nations, tribes, peoples, and tongues, standing before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes, with palm branches in their hands. Ever wonder who Gog and Magog are? They are the great multitude which no one could number in Revelation 7, consisting of all nations. Hiding in plain sight, isn't it? And to remove any further doubt, consider the following. Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be like the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured or numbered. And in the place where it was said to them, You are not my people, it shall be said to them, Children of the living God. Who is Hosea referring to when he said, You are not my people? Was it not the Gentiles or nations who are now sons of the living God? Therefore, it is of faith that it might be according to grace, so that the promise might be sure to all the seed, not only to those who are of the law, but also to those who are of the faith of Abraham, who is the father of us all. As it is written, I have made you a father of many nations. The promise is sure to all the seed, not only to those who are of the law, but also to those who are of the faith of Abraham. Hence, he is the father of us all, the father of many nations. Does he who supplies the Spirit to you and works miracles among you do so by works of the law or by hearing with faith? Just as Abraham believed God, and it was counted to him as righteousness? Know then that it is those of faith who are the sons of Abraham. And the Scripture, foreseeing that God would justify the Gentiles by faith, preached the gospel beforehand to Abraham, saying, In you shall all the nations be blessed. So then, those who are of faith are blessed, along with Abraham, the man of faith. Here we find the most precious of God's truth. God preached the gospel beforehand to Abraham. And what is this gospel? In you shall all the nations be blessed. Cain was the firstborn, then Abel. Ishmael was born first, then Isaac. Esau first, then Jacob. First the natural, then the spiritual. Is there a pattern here? Yes, there is. There are two sons, and though the first persecutes the second, they are brothers. Friend, Abel's blood does not speak against Cain. It speaks for him. And the blood of Christ speaks better things than that of Abel. Then Peter came to Jesus and asked, Lord, how many times shall I forgive my brother when he sins against me? Up to 7 times. Jesus answered, I tell you not 7 times, but 77 times. 2 births, 2 sons, 2 brothers, 2 sevens. The fullness of one parallels the fullness of the other. The witness of spiritual perfection.